Hello, everyone. We are just starting in 2 more minutes, just giving a buffer time so that everyone can join us. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Uh, Today's session is a joint session uh, along with the KCD Lahore and CNCF Lahore and GTG Nicosia. This is first in the series of Mastering the Cloud. Today we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Benjamin Ontoy. He is a DevOps engineer at Pageit.io. He will be delivering his presentation today, guiding us about DevOps engineering and the roadmaps developers can follow, especially the beginners who are trying to enter in the DevOps field. So let's hear it from him.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. Sorry. All right. So today we'll be discussing about beginner's guide, how to get started with DevOps engineering. First and foremost, we'll be discussing about what is DevOps engineering. I know most people maybe they haven't heard of this term before, DevOps engineering, and some might have heard of it, but they don't know what it means. So today we'll be uh, diving deep into. By the way, today's session is just like an introduction to DevOps engineering as a whole, as a field of study, and in coming weeks we are going to be doing other sessions like workshop. On the 21st there's a workshop about Kubernetes or K8, and after that there's a planned session for JIT, that is version control system. And coming weeks also we'll be going deep into more DevOps workshops uh in coming weeks. But for today we're just going to discuss um basics of what is DevOps engineering and what do a DevOps engineer do, right? All right, so let's move on. Um, so what is a DevOps? What is DevOps? DevOps is a set of practice that combines software development and IT operations, right? So let's consider a company, right? Let's say a company has a product. Let's say they wrote a website, or let's just use AI, for example. Let's say a company developed a piece of software that takes people's prompts and generates images. For example, I want to generate someone eating. So you just go into the prompt, you type, I want to a picture of someone eating. So let's say a company does that. And this software development team, they are different. They write the code, they will do whatever they want to do, right? And there's the phase whereby you want people to access that website globally. When someone goes to, let's take for example, the company name is benjamin.com, right? For example. So you want people from all over the world, anywhere in the world, to be able to access that internet, maybe on another planet on Mars, to be able to access that website. So DevOps is that gap, is that bridge between the software development process and the process of you making everybody to see your website. It's a client server architecture, right? Where you host the website on a server and clients are the normal people. They would want to access it. They will do a ping benjamin.com and they should get that website or that services. So DevOps is that gap between that process. And of recently, DevOps is a wide topic that is being talked about, right? It ensures efficient delivery of software, scalable. If you want to deliver your software and make it scalable, for example, when you start off, you don't know if how many people are going to access your website, and the server has a limit, so you don't know. So at first, you might start small. So DevOps enables you to be able to scale your software as times goes on, and it helps you to also one very key thing that DevOps does is help you to deliver reliable software. And sorry, an example is google.com. I don't think there's a time you go to the internet and you go search google.com that they tell you 504, 500, or 404 error not found or something. Right. So DevOps enables google.com to stay live forever, right? No downtime and all that. So we're going to in this we're going to discuss how DevOps does that, right? So next thing is the goal of DevOps is to increase efficiency, speed, and reliability of software delivery, right? We've discussed about you doing your software, and the delivery phase is when you want your software to be um, accessed by other people, right? So that's the delivery phase of software development. So the goal of DevOps actually is coined from two words: development and operations, right? Together, DevOps, and there's another one called DevSecOps, development, security, operations. But today we are discussing about DevOps, and the goal of DevOps is to increase efficiency, 100% efficiency, speed at which, for example, there's a new update. We want the users to get that update as fast as possible. Reliability, in the advent that I want to push updates, we don't want any downtime. People are trying to access our website. Imagine there's a competitor, they'll ditch our software and go to another competitor, right? So we want reliability of software delivery. And the second, sorry, I read the third um explanation letter. The second is DevOps aims to optimize and automate processes between development and operations team. Yeah, so the main one of the main key concept of DevOps is automation, because you have to automate a lot of things, and DevOps and automation comes hand in hand. There's no way you can be a DevOps engineer that you wouldn't love automation, right? You should love automating things, scripts, and all that. So let's move on. Uh, Next slide. What are the benefits of DevOps? Some companies have DevOps engineers, some don't have DevOps engineer, right? And what are the benefits of you having a DevOps engineer in your company? For example, where I work, pg.io, having a DevOps engineer, or let's say team. Most of the times, you have a DevOps team. Big companies like Facebook, I can imagine they have two to between 5 to 10 DevOps team and all that. But having a DevOps team helps you to um, faster and more frequently release your software, right? It helps you to release your software very fast and frequently. You release your software, improve collaboration and communication between teams. For example, you have the team that develop, you have the team that quality assurance team, those that check and test others. So DevOps helps you to ensure communication between these teams, right? And it's having a DevOps teams increase the reliability and stability of your software. All right. And on the server, sometimes there might be some things that go on your server. Maybe your server has full disks, full space, exhausted the available space. DevOps enable you to be able to detect that before time and quickly manage it before time. DevOps helps you to deliver your software reliably, right? That means if you want to deliver your software, people don't have to wait. Oh, there's an update going on, so we can't use the website. And that is in website sense of things. There's also the mobile app, right? And all that. But in the website side of things, for many people that attend CIU here in Cyprus, if they are uploading exam results, you notice SIS is always down and all that. So if I don't know if CIU have DevOps team, CIU have DevOps team will be in charge of managing that, making sure that whenever operation they are trying to upload the results, there won't be downtime. And because one of the reasons why there's downtime on SIS is because many people are trying to check their results, and most probably the servers are exhausted trying to solve those requests. Right? So a DevOps team will be able to detect that and solve it, and it will ensure that SIS is being served to everybody at every time. You have the ability to scale and undo larger workloads. Like I said, if you have a DevOps team, they'll help you to be able to scale. For example, when it's time to upload um, results for students, DevOps team can be in charge of just scale up the system, add more servers to be able to handle a very large request. Then when people finish checking their result, they can downscale back to normal servers. So if you have a DevOps team, it helps you to manage that. Reduce time to recover from failures. All right, so there are some times when there might be a failure in your system. For example, if you notice, there are some times when you are trying to access Instagram, WhatsApp, right? If and it's not working, if there's no DevOps team in WhatsApp or Instagram on call, normally a DevOps engineer is always on call 247, right? 247. So if you don't have a DevOps team in charge, imagine your app just crashes. You have to start looking for the developers that they are on break or they are sleeping, and they'll try to. It will take a lot of time before they'll be able to bring back their servers and all that. So DevOps helps you to quickly. You can't totally eliminate failures and all that, but having a DevOps team, dedicated DevOps team, or enables you to be able to recover from that failure quickly. All right. So enough of discussing about benefits of DevOps. Actually, the importance of you. I assume everybody on this call are interested or want to know what it entails to be a DevOps engineer. But you knowing the benefits, or this benefit enables you as a DevOps engineer to do your job very well. You know what you want to, what you are supposed to do and all that. So let's move on to the next slide. Um, Slide 4 is what is key principles of DevOps. All right, as DevOps, there are some key principles you should know as a DevOps engineer. First is infrastructure as code is something you hear if you're in the DevOps, you keep hearing it every day. Infrastructure as code, especially if you are working in large companies that receive millions of requests daily on their web service or on their apps. They always talk about infrastructure as code. Um, and all that. So infrastructure is servers, managing servers. Instead of treating them as hardwares, piece of hardwares, you can treat them as server, you can as code, sorry, and all that. Then monitoring and logging is also a slang you hear. It's a principle of DevOps. Monitor, real-time monitoring, because you have to be real-time monitoring your services. If there's any downtime, you'll be able to quickly detect it and fix it before anybody starts complaining and all that. And how are you able to know, detect all these things? Is when you log in your services, you check the logs. The logs helps you to recover quickly, because you can easily go to the logs, check through the logs, what happened, what caused this. Then you inform the right person. If it was a development issue, inform the developers, they'll fix it and push updates that will fix that. If it was server issue, maybe your RAM is exhausted or your hard drive is exhausted or something like that, you quickly upscale or delete some things, recover from backup and all those things. So monitoring and logging is very important in the DevOps world. CI, which is continuous integration. This happens if you notice there are some, if you've let's say you wrote a software and there's a need for you to frequently update that software. You make changes, you push updates, right? That's called continuous integration. You add features. Let's say you have a software idea and you don't just build everything at once, you incrementally build your features. First you start with one stuff, you release your MVP, right? Then you add more features, add it to what you have before. That's called continuous integration. And CD is always together, CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery. Continuous delivery involves automating software release process. Like you don't have to manually. For those that have done PHP before, if let's say you host on VPS before, when you want to host your service, what you do is you go to your VPS, you use FileZilla and transfer your files to the hosting. Then you create your MySQL and whatnot. Then your site is live, right? In the world of DevOps, all those stuff can be automated. You don't have to do anything, right? There's a service there's a startup I'm hosting for presently. One someone I've done my CI/CD pipeline. When the developers, they are still building on it, they haven't even gone public yet. It's still working, developing under the hood, right? So when the developers write the code, they push Git commit, Git push, they push to GitHub. Automatically, code gets deployed. If there's an error from the developer, the site goes down. And what do? I inform the developers. Someone pushed the code that broke the uh, code base. They'll fix it, push again. When they fix and push again, I don't have to do anything. The site comes back live straight up. So that's what we deal with in the world of DevOps. It's a very interesting field, actually. Collaboration and encouraging collaboration and cross-functional teamwork. This is like we said previously, DevOps helps you to talk between, enable bridging gaps, right, between developers and operations. Previously there are people they call system admins, right? So they will help you to bridge between the developers and the system admins, the testers, everybody in your company. They are the one focal point that they communicate with is the DevOps engineer, like that. So let's go next slide. uh so let's now discuss, if I want to be like, I want to start in the field of DevOps, how do I start? What are the things I need to know to start and become a DevOps engineer? Actually, when I started DevOps, I heard my lecturer, Dr. Devrims, talk. He said he was a DevOps engineer back in the days, and I was like, what? That's my first time of hearing it about the field DevOps engineering. So, and fast forward to some years after, I went for an internship, and the guys were like, "Oh, they want to, they have a DevOps team, and they are trying to do like interview for people. Let's say a competition. They're asking questions to see who has potential to be a DevOps engineer." So when they started, I just saw one of the questions they asked. They were asking, "How do you switch to root user on a Linux computer?" I was like, "What? Is this what it takes to be a DevOps engineer?" And then I used Linux a bit, not very much. So I was like, no, I will do this. So I went for the competition, and I passed the questions they asked. They asked questions about Linux system, some tests. I did those, and that's how my DevOps journey started. So for DevOps, how do you start to become a DevOps engineer? First thing you need to learn is version control. What is version control? Version control is normal JITs that everyone, I'm sure most developers will have heard of. JITs, and there are other version controls that exist, but the most common one is JIT and GitHub. GitHub is different from JIT. I'm very sure in coming weeks when we do the JIT training, you understand it better. So GitHub is a platform that some guys built, purchased by Microsoft, and they talk with JIT on your computer, right? There's another one called Bitbucket. There's Cheat Lab. There are lots of those, and big companies like, I think, Linux Foundation. They recently switched to JIT. They use something called SCM before. That Windows doesn't use JIT. I think no, they use Microsoft. They use JIT. There are some people that don't use JIT and all that. So there are lots of them, but those stuffs are called version control. They help you to keep a record of different versions of your software. You can be able to roll back and all that things. Very so if you want to be a DevOps engineer, you should be able to master that, learn that first, be conversant with JIT, with version control system as a whole, because you don't know the company you are working with. Maybe they don't use GitHub, they use Bitbuckets. Recently, there's one I saw recently, and you have to be just know the idea of how JIT works. JIT commit, JIT add, those stuff, right? Every other thing is like an interface on top of JIT. Like GitHub is an interface on top of JIT, Bitbucket, all that. So you need to know that. Next thing you need to learn is scripting and automation. What languages do you use for scripting and automation? You have Python, which is one of the most common languages used for scripting, and sorry, in the world of DevOps, there is Bash, right? Bash scripts. You can use Bash script also. You can learn that. But if you don't know how to write Bash scripts, doesn't matter. If you learn Python, works for you. And there are others. There was some time I was doing some job for one guy. I had to learn a new language because said it was good for scripting. The language is called Clojure. So I had to learn Clojure then to write some scripts to start up. When you start a server, you automatically uh, secure the server, provision the server, something that there are some tools that does. For example, Terraform does that. But I wrote those scripts by myself with a new language, Clojure. But there's the script part called Babashka, so that's what I use. So you have to be able to learn one or two scripting languages, and the most common you can learn is Python and Bash. Also, Golang is very good for cloud or DevOps kind of things, because most of the tools you use in DevOps, they are written in Golang. So that, I think I started learning Golang. I learned Golang because of that. Most of the tools you use in DevOps are Golang. So if you are looking for a new language to learn, you can pick up Golang. Or if you know how to write Python, you are good and all that. I think when the question time, we're going to come to that. Another thing you need to learn is Linux stroke Unix systems. Why? Because I can tell you that 90% of servers are Unix based. 90% they are Unix space, and you need to learn that because just rare people use Windows, right? Windows, and I don't think anybody use Mac OS as server because Mac OS is enterprise software and all that, and what other of OS, maybe Raspberry Pi also you can install Linux on it. But you need to learn Linux. Like I said, my DevOps journey started from knowing one or two things about Linux, right? So Linux or Unix systems is the basics. You need to learn that. And one thing I forgot to add there is you need to learn the terminal because servers don't normally have GUIs for you to go click, 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 click. As a DevOps engineer, you should be one with your terminal. You should be able to type things on your terminal, PWD, LS. You should know those things, right? And networking, you should learn networking also because if you would be serving your website to the public, you need to look for a way to make an IP address revealed to the public. Most probably the server might have firewalls, be able to add rules and all that. So networking is something you should learn. And virtualization, you should learn it. But if you don't learn virtualization, it doesn't stop you from um, learning from becoming a DevOps engineer at first, right? So you can start with four of these points. So these are the foundational things you need to know about DevOps: version control, scripting, and automation. If you know these things, trust me, when I started my DevOps journey, I know JIT and Unix systems, right? And I started, right. So these are the foundational things. Then moving on, other things that these are essential tools. Now we are into the big guys. Essential things you need to know about um DevOps before starting DevOps are CI/CD, right? Like we've discussed about CI/CD before: continuous integration and continuous deployment. One is automated build. So if you have your websites, uh, you want to build them. For example, let's say it's written in Node.js. For you to serve it, you have to build it. npm run builds for those that do Node.js. Or if it's Python or Django, you need to build so you'll be able to serve the static files. So you need to be able to learn how to automate those builds, right? And how do you automate them with various scripting languages? You need to be able to integrate version control into your server, right? And also for big systems, they do testing. So you need to be able to automate those testing. So what you do is before you push deploy, you have to test. If the tests fail, you don't push because if you push a failed test, your site will go offline, right? So you have to be able to automate those testing, and you have to be able to create deployment pipelines. Notice that I joined CI/CD in one, right? Is They are different, right? But you can join them; they come together hand in hand, right? So and deployment pipelines are pipelines that you write. The most common one is GitHub Actions. You need to learn that. Uh, and there are others like Jenkins. There is Jenkins. There is Circle CI and others. But the least one you can learn is GitHub Actions. I've been using GitHub Actions for years. Never failed me, right? And you need to learn rollback strategies because sometimes there might be issues that the developers did not test properly before pushing the code. You need to be able to quickly roll back changes, right? And you need to learn about blue green deployments, like you deploy production testing environment. So normally there's the one they do. They have staging, dev, and production. Staging is the one you go to check before you merge to production. Then there's development that developers push to. That one can break because only developers have access to it. and all that. Then you have to learn infrastructure as code integration. You need to learn that also. Next, right? Before we go to next, the major primary goal of continuous integration is to detect and address integration issues early in the development process, right? So uh, that's why CI is important. Before you push it to production, you'll be able to detect any issues quickly. Then when the issues are solved, then you push it to production. And the goal of CD, which is continuous deployment, is it involves automation of deployment processes to different environments. That's what CD is for. CI detects issues before you go to production. CD automate the production deployment process. Next slide, containerization and IAC. Right, IAC is short form of infrastructure as code. So I think the king of all containerization that you learn is Docker. And Docker, what is Docker? Docker is a package or a technology that allows you to package your applications and their dependency into lightweight portable containers. So let's say if you want to deploy your application, you don't have to have all of Ubuntu image installed on your server. You can just have the latest, it's called Alpine, the smallest version. Then you deploy your app. It saves you from having of exhausting all of your space and whatnot. So you should learn Docker. Docker is very good. You should learn it as DevOps. These are essential tools you should learn. Remember, we're talking about pathways to becoming a DevOps engineer. Then another thing you should learn is Kubernetes. Kubernetes. Going to learn more about this. So make sure you don't miss it. I think it's on Sunday. Am I right? Make sure you don't miss it. Kubernetes, short form of Kubernetes is K8. And for years, I've been thinking because of the natives, that's why it's 8. But that's not why it is 8. It is 8 because the letter between K and S is 8. And I think the new version of Kubernetes I saw online they want to deploy is taking out K and S. But that's why it's K8 in case someone asks you, because if you count Uber and Nate, it's 8 letters. That's why it's K8, it's called K8 for short. There are other abbreviations like that, like internalization, I18S, like that. And so for those are abbreviations they use in software development world. And another IAC you should learn is Terraform and Cloud Formation. What Terraform and Cloud Formation does is it helps you uh to to provision your servers. For example, if you deal with a lot of servers, you don't have to manually create different. Let's say you are deploying on 20 servers because you have a lot of requests. For one, Google servers is not just one server. Google.com is not served by one server. Let's use Netflix, for example. Netflix don't deploy on one server, they deploy on different regions, right? So if you have that, you can use Terraform to easily start your servers. Like I told you guys, I had to learn a language, scripting language to do that, but you can use Terraform for that. And there's Ansible and Puppet also. You can use those to do your configuration. But Terraform is more in the side of in between container orchestration and all that. But Ansible it's called Ansible Playbook. They use it to quickly provision servers. Just give it instruction, install this sudo apt-get install that. Just quickly once you run the playbook, it installs everything for you automatically and all that. So yeah. All right. So next is monitoring and logging, security and compliance. So in the monitoring and logging aspects, right, you need to You need to learn metrics. For this metrics, they use for monitoring, they use Prometheus, a service called Prometheus for that metrics and alerts. You use Prometheus to get those metrics. Then you can use Grafana to plot the graphs to see it visibly. And those are things you can learn. For centralized logging, you need to put sorry, on Prometheus also you can put all the logins. For example, login of your app, login of if you are using web servers, uh forgot to put those parts, Nginx, Apache, all those web servers, they have their own logs, right? So you can put all the logs in one place so you can see them instead of going into your server checking them one after the other. So that's what centralized logging is. You need to know how to do that. Visualization and dashboards, that's where Grafana comes in, where you'll be able to see if there's spike in the resource usage. You'll be able to see it quickly and you'll be able to identify there's something wrong. Then you check why is there a spike in this, be able to stop it before it damages your software and everything goes offline. DevSec alerting and incident management. Yeah, so when there's spike, for example, there's a tool I use called monitoring. Yeah, what it does is it pings your website every, let's say, 2 minutes, 1 minute. If it gets anything other than 200, it sends you alerts. This server is down. Quickly go and sort it. So it's those kind of things. As a DevOps engineer, you should know those kind of things when like that. Uh, Incident management is when your server is down, you should be able to quickly restart it back up, recover, incident recovery. DevSecOps is security because you are deploying on servers. As a DevOps engineer, you should be very aware of security because you can easily get DDoS, distributed denial of service. You should be able to know how to stop that on your server. You should be able to know how to protect your server very well so someone will not hack into the server, steal your database credentials, or like that. The most common thing they can do to you as a DevOps is DDoS, because once someone attacks your server with DDoS, other people won't be able to access your server because it's overcrowded with unwanted requests. And as a DevOps, you'll be able to make sure your apps are compliant to standards. There are different standards, MIT license, all those kind of license. You'll be able to make sure your apps comply. The apps you are deploying comply to that. And I think recently, if there are some people, if you're on YouTube, you are trying to log into Bevy and it's not allowing you to link to Google Gmail. As a DevOps, you should be able to stop that, right? That's an issue with maybe there's a policy that Bevy is supposed to do, but they forgot or something. They will sort it out very soon. And as a DevOps engineer, you should be able to do security testing on your apps on your server. And as a DevOps, also you should know how to do access control. Access control in the sense that if you have a server as a developer, developers control should access to the server should be different. Developer should be able to create files in his own directory and all that. A tester should not be able to create any file on your server. Just access server test and all that. So as DevOps, you should master those access control. And these are essential things. These are things you know after you get started. Remember what I discussed previously are the getting started stuffs, right? So let's move on to next slide. I think these are the last essential stuffs. The next slide is conclusion, right? So mastering if you master all these things that we've discussed about previously, if you master them, these skills they will empower you to be able to efficiently deliver softwares, and they will help you to um allow cultivate communication between people, developer team in your organization, and all that. So if you're able to learn all the tools that we've discussed about previously, so those are the essential tools, pathway for you to becoming a DevOps engineer. And to conclude my talk, becoming a proficient DevOps or cloud, actually DevOps cloud engineer is somehow same, right? So it's an ongoing journey that involves continuous learning and adaptation, right? You never know it all at once. You start from somewhere, you start from somewhere and you go to the next, right? It's continuous learning and all that. So thank you all for your time and attention. And before we go, I would like to show everyone how to create the developers accounts on Google developers accounts. So if you have your phone, you can quickly scan this QR code, or you can go to developers.google.com. 1 minute, I'll share my screen now, so I'll show you what to do there. Uh, okay, not that. Yeah, I know. Oh, present, share screen, share screen, window. Let's share tab. Yeah, this share. All right. Sorry. So this is, if you go to that developers.google.com, you see a page. So I need you to just click on developers profile. When you click on developers profile, if you haven't registered for this yet, this will be the first time you would see this. But if you have, you see something else. If you have registered before, let me show you what you see. Developers.google.com. Right. Is it developers profile? Yeah, developers profile. If you register before, you see something like this, so you don't need to register again. But if you have not, you see something like this. I need you to just create profile. When you click create profile, you fill in these details. City, town. I'm in Nicosia, Cyprus. I am DevOps engineer. You select what you do. Community employer, pageit.io. For your school, you can put your school, or you can put GDG Nicosia. Let me put GDG. So because this email is for Pageit, my company email. So pronoun, select your pronoun. Yeah, you can put anything you want, school or GDG Nicosia, doesn't matter. So you click next. City, really. All right. So when you go next, you can select things you do. My first language, C++. You can select things that you do, Golang, Flutter, like that. Just have fun with it. Select all the things you do. Love open source. Then go next. See. So when you go next, you can confirm newsletter subscription. They will send you newsletters or not. I won't click this. Then finish. And that's it. You've created your Google Developers account just like that. and you can start earning badges. That's because most of these things we are doing, you'll be able to earn badge, and you can share your badges to social medias, and people can see what you are up to. Employers can see, oh, this is what you've done, this is what you do, and all that. So it's very important for you to have this developer's profile. And in upcoming sessions also would will require you guys to submit. There will be a Google form later on the groups. You're required to submit these things to us, so we'll be able to issue some things to you and all that. So and that's all for my talk. I would like you guys to anticipate further workshops that will come about DevOps. Thank you for having me, Mr. Zaid. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin, for today's amazing session. Before we finish up, just make sure you make your developer profiles public before submitting it to us. We will be sharing the form with you shortly via your email addresses and in our WhatsApp community as well. We would like you to fill up the forms and submit as soon as you can, because we will be using these dev profiles to deliver and send badges to you, which you will be able to share on your social media profiles. Uh, so, I would like to thank Benjamin uh, today for this amazing session. This was the first of the series and only an introductory session. We have another session coming up on Sunday. That would be a hands on workshop uh, for Google Kubernetes engine. So make sure you attend with your laptops and a good internet connection. Mr. Adil from CNCF and KCD Lahore will be joining us on Sunday, and he will be delivering that workshop for us. Um, all right, then, if you guys have any questions, you can ask them right now, and then we will end this stream in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Paul Banza, would you like to know what's the best programming language for DevOps? All right, for DevOps, like I said, you are good with scripting languages, and there is no one best language actually, but you can start with Python. Like I said, depend on you. If you already know Python before, it's okay for you. Just continue with Python, but there's no one best language for DevOps engineering. So like that, Python, Bash scripts, and Golang. Any of this works for you. Thank you. Any other questions? Also, if you have any questions, can ask them in the chats in the group also. Michelle, what's the difference between cloud engineering and DevOps engineering? Uh, Cloud engineering has to do with because in DevOps now you don't only work in the cloud. There are some people that have s- servers on site. It's called on site servers, right? Where you set up a computer in the company to use it, right? But in cloud, you are dealing with cloud only. So for cloud, you have to know how to use GCP, you have to know how to use AWS, any of those cloud providers. You use them for your services, and those things they entail a lot because uh, they have their services that they do. For example, on AWS, you can have a very what is it called? On AWS, they have load balancers, they have AWS deploy, they have CDN, which is cloud front. So as cloud engineer, you need to know all those things, right? It's not just uh deploying. The DevOps part is making lives go live, avoiding um downtime and all those things. So that's the DevOps part of it. So as cloud engineer, learn the cloud providers, the big cloud providers and all that. Is there any difference between full stack and DevOps? Yes, there's a very big difference between a full stack and DevOps. DevOps, you don't have to know how to write back end, front end, and whatever entails as a full stack. As a DevOps, you should know how to run those apps that full stack or developers have written, maybe back end and front end. You should know how to run it. For example, npm install, npm run build, or Python, whatever, all those things. Then you should know how to serve them, expose them on a port and all that. So it's very, very different. Full stack is very, very different from DevOps. So DevOps are not required to write code, those codes that are software codes, just automation codes and all that. But you should be able, as a developer, you should be able to know what goes on in those things, because if you are trying to deploy, let's say, and you have issues, I mean, the full stack or backend, they'll give you guides on how to deploy the apps, anyways. But you are not required to write code, full stack code, backend, front end as a DevOps engineer. Any other question?
All right. So there is one more question. Let's see.
Okay. Is there a relationship between cybersecurity and DevOps? A little bit thin line. The relationship there is very thin because cybersecurity entails a lot of things like pen testing, and but the only place where both of them meet is cybersecurity also involves someone hacking like your system, but DevOps don't have to do with someone's system, right? Cloud, you should be able to secure your server, and you should be able to do not even secure them with best practices, right? And but cybersecurity has to do with two ways. There's the red team and there's the other guys that we don't need to talk about, right? The black team, black hat, right? So cybersecurity is a very big uh thing on its own. So the only relationship is, as a devil, just know how to secure your servers to avoid cyber um, hackers or whatever to penetrate you. So that's just the only difference between that's the only relationship between DevOps and cybersecurity. What would you recommend people starting with programming to learn if they want to go into DevOps? If you want to go into DevOps and you're starting programming, uh I would say you can start with Python because you need some language to understand the basics of programming. That is the um, iteration, those kind of things, loops. because those are concepts in programming. uh you need to learn those things before you now go into scripting, right? So you can use Python, learn Python. uh like, yeah, Python will be the easiest thing to do.
All right, then. I think there are no more questions. This would be the end of today's session. Thank you, Benjamin, for joining us today and delivering this amazing session. All right, then. Everybody have a good night, I would say, and see you soon. See you all on Sunday. Thank you so much. Bye bye.